Hello MUCT 113L class. This is your midweek lecture, your remote lecture for week 4. Okay, let's jump right into it. First thing we are going to do is modal scales. Modal scales that we've been getting into recently. This time I am not going to write them all out on the board. You should have taken notes of these the last number of times we've looked at them. I will write the number or the order that we will do these. Let's do these in kind of a descending order. Lydian, Mixolydian, Dorian, Phrygian, and Locrian. Okay, we'll do those and those are, so most of the time there's just one or maybe two things that are changing from one to the other. Actually, I think just one thing that's changing from one to the other. So let's go ahead and start and get into the key of C. Alright, sing them right in a row. Lydian, 2, 3, 4. Do, re, mi, fi, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fi, mi, re. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, te, do, te, la, sol, fa, mi, re. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, te, do, te, la, sol, fa, mi, re. Do, ra, mi, fa, sol, le, te, do, te, le, sol, fa, mi, ra. Do, ra, mi, fa, se, le, te, do, te, le, se, fa, mi, ra, do. Okay, if you're not really sure about those, I'll pull the slider back and do it again, and consult the notes that you've been taking in class just to make sure you know which each of the scales, which notes are raised, which notes are lowered. Okay? All right, let's go right to the Berkowitz book and sing on page 46. On page 46. All right, on page 46, we're going to jump around just a little bit. Actually, we're just going to skip one of these, but 46, number 195. Can you notice 195 and 196? There are some triplets there. For one reason or another, the Kazez book doesn't deal with triplets or any tuplets, for that matter, until quite late, really, into the second year of our coursework here. But I'll spend, in this Friday's class, I'll talk a little bit about triplets and how they are kind of the way to think about triplets when you're in simple meter like this. But for now, we're just going to sing it, follow along to get the feel for what the triplet is, and then we'll explain it on Friday. We're in the key of E flat major. First note, they are on Mi. 1, 2, and 3. Mi, do, do, re, mi, re, ti, sol, fa, re, mi, fa, sol, sol, la, fa, re, mi, fa, sol, do, mi, re, sol, sol, la, ti, do. All right, and we'll skip number 196. We can explain it on Friday a little bit more. Let's go on to 197. We are in the alto clef here, key of G minor. Okay, G harmonic minor. Here's another example of harmonic minor. Do is our first note. Take it very andante. This comes in on beat 4. First 3 beats. Here we go. 1 and 2 and 3. Do, re, mi, re, do, ti, re, do, sol. sol, do, re, mi, re, do, ti, do, sol, do, le, sol, do, mi, sol, fa, mi, re, mi, do. All right. Now, if you look at number 195, the sentence immediately above, it says the next 5 melodies practice the interval of a perfect fifth. So if you look and you analyze number 195, you will see, indeed, we first measure perfect fifth, third measure descending perfect fifth, fourth measure ascending, then descending, ascending. Okay, so there's a pattern. It's a little bit of a sequence of alternating ascending and descending perfect fifths. Okay. Looking at it, it can look a little confusing, but if you consider that it is indeed a sequence, a pattern, you'll start to feel it. If you look at the top notes of the pattern, starting from measure 3, you will see it's sol, fa, mi, re, do. It's the step down. And if you look at the bottom notes, you will see they are do, te, le, sol. So it's basically just the descending melodic minor scale, or the natural minor scale descending, in 2 halves. The top part of it, from sol to do, is the top note, and then from do back down to sol is the bottom note, just alternating. So if you hear it that way, it'll make it much easier. We are in F minor. Start with our do, sol. Let's try it. 1 and 2 and 3. Do, sol, le, sol, fa, mi, sol, do, te, fa, mi, le, sol, re, do, te, le, sol, la, ti, do. Turn the page over to page 47. Let's do a couple more here. 199 and 200 we will do. Still we are, our theme is the interval of the fifth. So look briefly at 199 and see what we have there. Second measure, we have sol, re, which is the outline of the outer notes of the 5 chord. You also see la, re at the end, or I'm sorry, mi, la, that's the outlines of the 6th chord, etc. So let's give this one a try, go nice and slow, and you'll see the patterns. Alright, sol, sol, do, let's try this one. 1 and 2, E and sol, sol, do, do, sol, re, sol, re, sol, re, do, ti, mi, la, fa, re, sol, sol, mi, do, fa, re, sol, sol, do, re, sol, do. All right, and let's do one more. 200, the lento. We are in the key of the rare key, relatively rare key of B flat minor. So you see there is the perfect fifth right at the very beginning, later, and then between me and te, between the 3rd and 7th scale degrees in natural minor. Though that is relatively rare in the major mode, very common in the minor mode, because when you're outlining the 3rd and the 7th scale degree, okay, if you add the 5th, 3rd, 5th, and 7th scale degree, that's the major 3 chord, which is also the relative major of the minor mode. Minor mode tends to spend a lot more time in the relative major than vice versa. So let's try this. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Let's try it. 1, 2. Do, sol, do, le, me, fa, me, re, me, do. All right, and we will continue the perfect fifth theme there in Friday's class. For now, go into the Kazez book. Let's spend a little bit of time in there. On page 72, get a little bit of our rhythm. Page 72. All right, let's begin where we left off, or after where we left off in last Friday's class, number 138, page 72, number 138. Okay, this is just a preparatory drill on coming in on an upbeat at the second level of subdivision. Remember, the half note is the unit of the beat, the single subdivision is the eighth, the double subdivision, the single subdivision, the quarter, the double subdivision, the eighth. So, T, 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 that kind of thing. 1 and 2 E and a 1 E and a 2 and T, ticky, T, ticky, T, 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 ticky, T, ticky, T, 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 T. Always make sure you subdivide. Next one, next preparatory drill, 139. 1 and 2 and 1 E and a 2 E and T, ticky, T, ticky, T, 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 ticky, T, ticky, T, 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 T. All right, now to 140. We are in 4/2 time. Watch out, there are meter changes here. 4/2 time can be confusing because there's just a lot of space. A lot of space in each one of the measures, but we are on the same groove. Make sure you count. 1 and 2 and 3 E and a 4 and T, 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 T. T, 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 ticky, T, T, ticky, ticky, T, T, T. T, 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 T. T, T, ticky, T, T, T. T, 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 ticky, ticky, T. All right, and we'll do one more, the preparatory drill on page 73, number 141, and this is just the a la breve or the cut time equivalent of the Scottish snap. Remember the Scottish snap, the reverse of the dotted rhythm. It's the short long rhythm rather than the long short rhythm. The Scottish snap, this is just how you see it in 2/2 time. Let's give it a try. 1 and 2 and 1 E and a 2 E and ticky T, ticky T, T T, T T, T T, T T, T, ticky T, ticky T, T T, T T, T T, T T, T. Okay. Put away the Kazez books, and let us go and review another concept that we started reviewing in last Friday's class. We got to it kind of near the end of the class period. That was seventh chords. Seventh chords. Okay, remember, we've spent a lot of the year clawing our way forward in harmonic dictation so we could get to pre-harmonic dictation too. It's really our last step before we go to straight standard SATB harmonic dictation. But we've limited ourselves purposefully to triads only and their inversions, and we want to add seventh chords to the mix. So we have all of our materials. It's basically like get on the plane to go to SATB harmonic dictation with all our luggage, okay, with our triads and seventh chords and the inversions. Okay, but we do need to review our seventh chords. Okay, so remember what we talked about. When you hear any kind of chord of any kind, the first thing you should determine is it a triad or is it a seventh chord? Okay, and if it is a triad, then you identify the triad. Major, minor, augmented, diminished, and you're good. If it is a seventh chord, you then need to go to the second level. And that is the chord static or does it have tension? Okay. The chords we determined here in class that are static are the major, major seventh, the minor, minor seventh. Okay, those are chords that you feel at home with, that you can sit on for more of an extended period of time, and they don't feel a strong desire to resolve to anything particularly. And then there are the tension chords that we have determined are the major minor seventh and the half diminished seventh, also known as diminished minor seventh. Okay? And those have a tension or a tendency tone. The seventh, in both of the cases, a tendency for that to resolve downward by half step. And kind of the limbo chord that that kind of has a foot in both of these categories was the fully diminished seventh or the diminished seventh. It is static in the sense that it doesn't have a particularly strong tendency to move any of the pitches to go in any particular direction, but it is such a tense sounding chord that we just don't feel relaxed, ending a song on it. Not a happy song anyway. So this is one that we have to work with a little. So let's review a little bit. I'll play these for you. Then we're going to do a number of examples. We're going to do 4 examples. These will be your attendance for this week. Okay, so remember, it'll be 1 through 4. There'll be 4 of them. Number them 1 through 4. You can attach them to your homework if you desire. Just make sure that I can tell that it's a separate thing, so you can save a little bit of staff paper, and that will be your attendance for this midweek remote lecture. Okay, so let me review briefly the 7th chords. I'll tell you what they are, and I'll play one so you can kind of get it in your ear. Of course, you can also go to the exercises on musictheory.net and practice there, because I have you do a number of 7th chord exercises there. You can go back one to the old assignments or to a future assignment in the folder on the Blackboard site and practice there as well. But I'll roll and chord so you can hear them, and then we'll do sets of these like pre-harmonic dictation 1. Okay, so first, let's start with the static chords. This first one, see if you can figure out. I'll tell you, but see if you can figure this out at first. Okay, I told you it was a static chord, and that was the minor minor 7th. Alright, let's do a tension chord. Okay, I hope you heard that 7th wanting to go down, and that together with the major triad at the bottom should tell you that it's a major minor 7th chord. Okay, so I'll do random. The remaining 3 we'll do in any particular order. Let's try this. Okay, so if your first question should be, is this static, is this tension? I hear this as tension, specifically the 7th of the chord, wanting to move down together with the diminished triad. This gives us a diminished minor or half diminished sonority. Okay, let's try this one. this example with its very tense lack of tension. It's kind of in that limbo space of the fully diminished or diminished chord. Here is the diminished triad, diminished seventh, and finally this one. The chord is static, and you can tell either by the major triad here or the major seventh that it is a major seventh chord. Okay, now that we've done that review, let's do a set of four pre-harmonic dictation 1 exercises. Here's number 1. Okay, remember how this goes. You don't even need a bass clef. All you're doing is you're just identifying the quality of the chord 4 in a row. Okay. Again, the first thing you should do is determine, is it a triad or is it a seventh chord? If it's a triad, solve it and you're done. If it's a seventh chord, you have to determine, is it tension or is it static, and then identify. Okay, let's give it a try. I'll play each one 2 times. All right, number 1, ready, and. Let's do it again. Number 2, another 4 chords, another 4 qualities. All right, here we go. I'll play it through 2 times again. Ready, and. Again, ready, and. Number 3. Here we go, ready, and. Again. And number 4. All right, here we go. Ready, and. One more time. All right, good luck. See you Friday.